Hello everyone and welcome back to Almost There, a twisted tale novel here on Disney Magic Zach. We're in chapter 39. Let's just get into it. The Louisiana Bayou, Monday, February 1927, one day before Mardi Gras. Naveen changed position on the bench at the bow of the ship, leaning first on his left elbow, then on his right. He could not find a comfortable position, most likely because there was no way to get comfortable while he was sat doing nothing but looking over the murky swamp ahead. He'd been banished to lookout duty, and he was still brooding over it. Both Tiana and the Slisette girl, who happened to be just as strong-willed as Tiana, had quickly shot down his offer to help row the boat, even though he assured them that his hand caused him very little discomfort. It stung a little, but that stinky green salve had worked like magic. He could flex all 5 fingers without flinching. The only thing still making him flinch was his bruised ego. It was difficult to sit here while the others pulled his weight, literally. Naveen glanced over his shoulder at the others rowing in unison to the tune of Hoagie Carmichael's Riverboat Shuffle, which Lewis hummed. Psst, Naveen whispered as he slid over to where she puffed out laboured breaths with each rotation of her oar. Here, let me do that, he said, reaching out for the long handle. I insist. Oh, thank you, Charlotte said with a grateful sigh. Naveen? He looked at Tiana. The normally smooth skin of her forehead creased with a frown. Please, Tiana, I cannot just sit here and do nothing. You must allow me to row, just for a little while, eh? She stared at him for a moment before a delicate smile curled up one corner of her mouth. So now she found him funny? Her reactions continued to confound him. Why are you smiling? Naveen asked with such suspicion. You don't even realise how much you've changed, do you? She asked. He peered at her. Is it such a big deal that I want to row a boat down a bayou? She answered with a musical laugh of hers. It is a very big deal. When I first met you, the idea of you begging to do such menial labour is something I could not fathom. Yeah, well, do not hit me in the head with an acorn this time, eh? Tiana's eyes widened. What did you say? Naveen frowned. I recall you pitching an acorn. It hit me. He pointed to the top of his head. Right here. We're in the swamp. I see it so clearly. Are you sure? Charlotte asked. Yes, Naveen said, but that makes no sense. He searched Tiana's face. Does it? No, she said quickly. I've never been in the swamp with you before. She gestured at the oar. You can row for the next 10 minutes, and then you're back on navigation duty. His scalp still prickling with unease. Naveen shook his head, trying to put the disturbing episode from his mind. Had he lost more blood than he thought? And be careful, Tiana added. I don't want you re-injuring that hand. Albert, as long as I have some of Lisette's wonderful smelly paste, my hand will be just fine. The next bit will cost you 2 nickels and a plate of beignets, Lisette called from just behind him. You drive a hard bargain, Naveen responded, but it is worth it. Seriously, you should sell that stuff. It is marvellous. He's right, you know, Tiana told her. All those factory workers who got hurt while dealing with the machinery will pay good money for your concoctions. They would, Naveen said with an enthusiastic nod. Believe me, I've seen my share of injuries at the sugar mill. If you have one specifically for burns, you could be one of the richest women in New Orleans. It's something to think about. I can even help. It suddenly occurred to him that those were not just empty words. He actually could help her. This past year of working for Mr. LeBeouf had not only established that he was a pretty good salesman, but he also liked it. And he was good at it. Maybe he could use that skill to help others. Ow! Naveen howled. He looked down to discover the dressing covering his wound had begun to unravel, and the wood from the oar was rubbing against his cut. See, Tiana said, I knew something like this would happen. She handed her oar to Charlotte and quickly made her way to the side. Here, Lisette said, handing Tiana a stout jar. Put a little more salve on it. Tiana balanced a jar on her leg and used both hands to unravel the remaining strips of cloth from around his hand. Naveen could barely believe his eyes. The cut looked as if it had been healing for days instead of just overnight. Wow, Tiana said. Naveen's right. You really should bottle this stuff up. I have a friend who has a stall in the French market. I should introduce you to her. I'll bet she'll sell your salve for you. She looked up at him and grinned. Not to take the business away from you, but you seem to have your hands full selling sugar. She returned her attention to his hand. Naveen studied her as she concentrated on smoothing the paste around the wound. Even the streak of dirt across her cheek could not detract from her beauty. Her hair flew wildly now that it was no longer bound by that ribbon, and he decided he liked it that way. Her eyes were drawn to her mouth as she pulled her bottom lip between her teeth. He had caught her doing the same thing while at the restaurant. He recognised it as something she did when she focused on completing a task. Naveen wondered what she would say if he told her that he was falling in love with her. Maybe she would throw him off to the side of the boat. But then again, maybe she would tell him she felt the same way. There was something about being on this bayou with her, something about their surroundings, that conjured a feeling of, what did that French fellow call it? Deja vu. It felt as if they had been here before, as if this was not the first time he had cruised these canals, talking to her, falling for her. China looked up at him. Their gazes caught and held. Naveen's breath became shallow as something potent and intense flashed between them. Only a few inches separated them, an expanse barely the length of his hands. His eyes still locked with hers. Naveen leant forward. The boat collided with a wave and bounced up in the air. Tiana's head snapped back. Where's the hairpin Lisette used to secure the bandage? She asked. It took a moment for her question to register. He was still entranced by their near kiss, his mind caught somewhere in those breath-stealing seconds when his most fervent fantasy had nearly become a reality. Naveed, she called softly. Yes? The hairpin, where is it? I'm not sure, he said, looking to either side of him. Maybe it slipped down to the deck. Oh, wait, I have something better. She reached into the front pocket of her coveralls, and after twisting some around, came up with a rose-sharp bauble of some sort. She turned it over in her hand to show him the pin on the back. This'll keep it in place even better than the hairpin. It's a bit fancy for the swamp, but it's not as if I haven't been accused of being overdressed before, Naveen said. She laughed, the reaction he'd hoped for. Just as she realised the pin from the back of the brooch, they hit another rough patch of water, and the piece of jewellery sailed out of her hand over the side of the boat. Oh no, Tiana said. She peered over the edge. There was nothing but foaming green water. That was a gift from Miss Rose, she said. Uh-oh, Charlotte said. What? Naveen asked. She held her palm out. Do you feel that? Feel what, Lottie? Tiana asked. A deafening crack of thunder pierced the tranquil swamp, just as the skies opened and a deluge poured down. The five of them released simultaneous screams. Keep rowing, Tiana called. Maybe we can outrun the storm. They rowed as fast as the murky waters would allow, but it seemed as if the storm cloud was following them. Tiana, I know we need to get back, but we will have to stop, Naveen called out of the roar of the pelting rain. We can't, she said. We're not all that far from the city. Maybe another hour. But we can hardly see in front of us. The bayou is so twisty, we may run into the bank again if we aren't careful. He's right, Lisette shouted. She pointed to the left. Look over there. We can tie the boat to that tree stump and find some cover. Hopefully it won't last too much longer. The rain continued to drench them, and a brisk wind blew as they waited for Tiana's answer. Okay, she said. But if this rain doesn't let up in half an hour, I say we just fight through it. Deal, Naveen said. They rowed towards a tree stump Lisette had pointed out. There was a cavity that looked as if it had been cut out specifically for their boat. Once they had secured it, they all ran into a thicket of trees just a few yards away and huddled together underneath a canopy of leafy branches. The boat rocked violently from side to side as the howling wind whipped up the water. Streaks of lightning stabbed the ground like a mighty javelin lunging from above. Where did this storm even come from? Tiana asked. Everything was calm just a few minutes ago. Is there anything else that can go wrong on this cursed trip? Charlotte groused. Don't borrow trouble, Tiana told. That was supposed to be a joke, Tia. I honestly don't think there is anything else that can... The boat, Lisette cried. It broke loose. No, Tiana screamed. Naveen sprang into action, taking off for the shoreline. The boat was the only way home. He could not let the current drag it down the bayou. He raced towards it, but a second later, Lewis whizzed past him. I got it, Lewis called before diving into the water. He cut through it like a knife, swimming out to the boat and catching the rope in both hands. When did Lewis learn to swim like that? Charlotte asked as she caught up with Naveen. Come on, Tiana called. We need to help him pull the boat in. They all waited on the bank of the canal for Lewis to arrive back with the boat. Good job, my friend, Naveen said as he gave him a heavy, hearty pat on the back. You swam up there like you've been doing it all your life. We got lots of ponds up there in Shreveport, Lewis said. He and Tiana shared a smile, which again confused Naveen, but he had no time to ponder what that meant. The rain still poured, but it let up enough for them to see. Tiana had the right idea, Naveen said. If we hang around here, the boat will just collect rainwater. I say we continue now that the rain isn't coming down as hard. Let's get on with it, Tiana said. They all climbed back into the boat and started paddling up the canal. Only took a few moments for Naveen to sense that something was very, very wrong. Are we sinking? Charlotte asked, putting her voice to Naveen's fear. What did you say about this trip being cursed? Lisette asked. She pointed to her feet, where water gurgled up from a puncture in the boat's flat bottom. I think you may be right.